Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Locker Room. I am Stan Gravois. November 25th. It is Thanksgiving week, and we are here to transition a little bit. We're transitioning from football, from volleyball, from swimming, from cross country into basketball, into soccer, even powerlifting, even, things like wrestling. So it's that time of the year where you start getting more into the winter sports. As we do every week, we're going to bring you all the information from last week and sort of preview what's happening this week. Always happy to have my guy, Dustin Robichaud here, who takes care. By the way, happy Thanksgiving week.
Happy Thanksgiving to you as well, Stan. Man, the year is just flying by.
It is. To think that we are complete with the fall season is pretty amazing. And when I say complete, I realize we have some more football to go. But swimming wrapped up this past week. Cross country wrapped up this past week. And then the week before that, of course, we had volleyball state championships happening in Lafayette. So we are cruising right along. Again, if this is the first time you ever joined our podcast, we want to make sure you understand this is just about Bayou Region high school student athletes. We are not here to bring you professional or collegiate sports. If you like what we're doing here, make sure to go subscribe. And I got to ask you, Dustin, I'm going to defer just a little bit.
Sure.
Subscribing does what?
If they subscribe to our channel on YouTube, they will get the newest content, the newest episodes in their feed as soon as they're uploaded.
Very good. Very good. By the way, you can also go to chapter marks. If you happen to be watching us on YouTube, there are chapter marks down in the description box. So if you want to get specifically to swimming or you want to get specifically to the football playoffs, you could go down there and you just click on the blue area and it will take you right there. So we're trying to make this as convenient as possible for you out there. We love doing it. Again, once a week, drops every Monday. We also have a new addition to this. Our friend Casey Gisclair, who is the proprietor of Bayou Sports. He's also on the Sports Corner every Saturday on radio. He's also on the daily feature at noon where he does play-by-play for KLEB. He's going to be joining us once a week and get us caught up. Casey's where you could go for daily information, right? We do this once a week. This is our once-a-week podcast to promote the kids. Casey does it on a daily basis. They are sort of everywhere, so it's good to have Casey to talk with us a little bit on a weekly basis. Today's show is jam-packed. We're going to talk football playoffs, obviously. That's the big thing right now. We're going to let you know who did well in swimming and who did well in cross country. But we also have Simon Badeaux. Simon Badeaux is a terrific soccer coach over at South Terrebonne. He's sort of the elder statesman of soccer. But he tells us a little bit about the state of soccer and how things are going right now. They started actually about a week and a half ago with their regular season. So again, it's the transition show, to be quite honest with you, on all of this stuff. We're also going to hear a little bit from the head coach of Vanderbilt Catholic's football program, and that is Brian Wallace. Brian took the leap from Nicholls State last year. He's always been on the collegiate level as a coach, and now he's at the high school level. We had him on Sports on the Bayou. He talks a little bit about making a transition from college football to high school football. Of course, his Terriers are very good. Got a big win on Friday night. They'll be in the third round of the playoffs against E.D. White. So we're going to talk to Brian a little bit later in the show. But we're going to jump into what happened last week. And we're going to start it off with football. We had 3 teams left in the playoffs, and we still have 3 local teams left in the playoffs. They all got big victories last week. First, we'll start with Division II Select, and the highest seed from our area there is E.D. White. They are the number 3 seed. They had absolutely no problems with Livingston Collegiate. So if you're sitting there going, Livingston Collegiate, where is that from?
Never heard of it.
Never heard of it. Listen, athletically, they weren't too bad. Now, E.D. White wins the game 51-14.
Wow.
They had to run the clock in the second half. E.D. White emptied their bench, so a lot of ninth graders got time in this game. I think it's what we thought it would be. Luckily, E.D. White doesn't have anybody who got hurt in that game, so they are ready to go. And, of course, that was at home for them. On the other side of the bracket, you had Vanderbilt taking on Archbishop Hannon. No problems for Vanderbilt Catholic. They also get into a running clock situation where in the second half, they just let the clock run. Final score in that one, 49-9, I think it was. Let me make sure I give you the right. Yes, 9. So Archbishop Hannon scores 9. Vanderbilt wins it easy. What does that do? It sets up the big showdown game this week in Division II, right here in Thibodaux. E.D. White taking on Vanderbilt Catholic, a game that was played 3 weeks ago in Houma. E.D. White came away with a 21-14 win in that one. It was a really good game, so we expect this to be a really good game. And quite honestly, folks, whoever wins this game has the inside track to get into the state championship. The fact is when University High was kicked out of the playoffs, it made it a easier track for both Vanderbilt Catholic and E.D. White. So this is the game. All the marbles are sort of on the table. 7 o'clock start time. It's at Pelche Stadium on the campus of E.D. White. Hope you guys could be out there. Actually, I'm supposed to be doing that game on radio that night. That would be on 97.7. So if you're in your car, going on a trip for Thanksgiving or the day after Thanksgiving, tune in to 97.7 FM. We'll bring that game to you.
It's going to be a big one.
Yeah, that's a big one. I don't know how they're going to fit everybody, quite honestly, in Pelche Stadium. The other big game is going to be maybe a driver and a 9-iron away, not even a half a mile away at Nicholls State University. Covenant Christian Academy is going to be taking on Ouachita Christian. That's a huge game. So again, CCA is a number 3 seed. Here's the interesting thing. Ouachita Christian is a number 11 seed. They've come up and beat teams, and they actually play in a classification higher for their district, but when they get put into the bracket, they get put into the Division 4 bracket. Ouachita Christian is a power in the state of Louisiana. That's where all the Duck Dynasty kids go to school, and they're all very good. So that being said, it's not going to be an easy one for CCA. They're going to have to show up, and they're going to have to play well, but I know they will. Jesse Turner does such a good job with that program there. That's going to be a game that's going to be played at Friday night, 7 o'clock start time at Nicholls State University. You won't have problems with seating in that one because Nicholls State actually holds 12,000 people, and I don't think there's going to be 12,000 people for that one. All that being said, a huge game because I think the winner of this one probably has an inside track to get into the Division 4 state championship game. So go out and support those kids. They certainly deserve your support along the way. And again, we'll be around. We'll make sure that we can bring you what happened in those games next Monday when we do our weekly podcast. Again, dropping on every Monday. Going to get more into football a little bit when we have Casey on, but I do want to give results from swimming last week. State swimming meets were held over in Sulphur at the SPAR Center, which is their recreation center in Sulphur. Congratulations to E.D. White's girls, E.D. White's boys. I'm going to get to their girls in just a second when we get to cross country. The boys from E.D. White won the state championship in Division III. That's an awesome, awesome honor for that group. The girls came out second in state, so they did well also, but the boys, again, are your state champion. And the top finishers from our area, I want to make sure you know that too, because this is pretty special. In the girls Division I, so this is the big high schools, right, in the state of Louisiana, the super big high schools. Terrebonne was your highest local finisher. They finished at number 20 in the girls division. In the boys division, Thibodaux finished at number 6. Congratulations. That's huge for Thibodaux at number 6. Because remember, private and public swim together. Not like in football. In football, there's a separation between private and public. And we could get into all of that, but we don't have enough time. And it's, what's the movie? It's complicated. Very complicated. In Division II, our highest girls finishing team was South Lafourche at number 11. Our highest boys teams, it was a tie for 15th place between South Terrebonne, Central Lafourche, and South Lafourche. So congratulations to those teams. Now, a lot of people are probably saying, Central Lafourche, what are they doing in Division II? Again, folks, it's complicated. In Division III, I just mentioned to you, the boys of E.D. White, you state champs. The girls of E.D. White came in second place. So congratulations to all of those schools. Swimming is done. We put a button on it. That is done until we get to the summer leagues that happen this summer.
A little too chilly to swim now.
Yes, it is. It's actually too chilly for the last month and a half for me. But congratulations to all those kids. They all do a great job. Cross country. We also had a champion in cross country. You heard my little faux pas when I was talking about the girls from E.D. White and the boys from E.D. White. Well, the girls from E.D. White won the cross country championship in Division 2. Now, I know a lot of you are saying, wait a minute, you just told me that E.D. White was in Division 3 for swimming. Yeah, but for cross country, they're in Division 2. Again, gets complicated. Listen, to know the LHSAA is to be a brain surgeon. Nonetheless, E.D. White's girls are your Division 2 state champion in cross country. Congratulations to those young ladies. The boys actually finished second in the state of Louisiana, so they sort of flip-flopped along the way related to swimming. Congratulations to E.D. White. In the biggest division in the state of Louisiana, which is Division 1, obviously, Central Lafourche's boys came out 8th place. That's pretty good stuff. So congratulations to the Trojans, boys, runners in cross country. And in Division 4, the highest team we had locally was Houma Christian. Houma Christian's girls came out 19th in the state of Louisiana. So again, great season for E.D. White, obviously, boys and girls, but their girls are your state champs. And then we had some other teams who did really well along the way also. So congratulations. We mentioned that this particular podcast has the theme of transition. That is finished also. So cross country done, put a bow on it. Volleyball done, put a bow on it. Swimming done, put a bow on it. And we're getting close to the finals in football.
I'm glad you're here to keep all this stuff straight, Stan, because I certainly can't.
If you give me a little much longer, my brain's going to get scrambled and I'm going to forget all of it. But it's always good, you know, that we can at least bring you this, because a lot of people forget about swimming and they forget about cross country. And
Definitely.
That's the fact.
We're putting a spotlight on it.
We are.
As I mentioned to everybody a little bit earlier, so happy that Casey Gisclair has sort of agreed. We twisted his arm a little bit to maybe give us a little bit time each week, and he can when he can. And we understand that. We're so grateful for him to do this for us. Casey, how have you been?
I've been wonderful. How about yourself? And you're not twisting my arm at all, man. I'm happy.
Very good. And listen, we wish you and the family a wonderful Thanksgiving week as we prepare for this week with a lot going on. I was mentioning to you off air, we talked a little bit about transition. We're going from the fall sports into the winter sports, but we don't want to forget about football because we still have 3 local teams, our Bayou Region teams, as we call it, still in the playoffs. Your thoughts from this past weekend out of curiosity?
Oh, man. The first thought was Covenant Christian Academy is really, really good. They face Central Catholic of Morgan City and just kind of have their way. They control the lines of scrimmage. And Stan, there's so much talk about the skill players at CCA and the Carters and Bailey Streams and, the running back and the quarterback. And I go back to what Brian Wallace has been telling me on play-by-play all year. He said, hey, I watch those guys play. They're mean and nasty up front. And that is what has allowed them to get to where they have been so far, sitting in the quarterfinals at home. Now, the other thing that stood out to me, and you often told me this, it's in Division 2, really in all the sports, it's the haves and the have-nots. Vanderbilt and E.D. White have not run into the haves yet. They're going to run into it Friday when they face one another, but they were far and away superior to their opponents on Friday.
Yeah, that kind of surprised me. Somebody asked me, wait a minute, so a 1-9 team can actually get to the second round of the playoffs? And I said, yep, in today's LHSAA world, it certainly is possible with Hannon getting there. And Livingston, who played E.D. White, is probably not that much better. But listen, I mean, if you're E.D. White and Vanderbilt, you do what you have to do. I mean, you go and you take care of business and hopefully nobody gets hurt. I do want to get back to CCA just a little bit. And thanks, because I know you live streamed that game for everybody out there. That's the game I was actually at. You mentioned the offensive line and the defensive line of CCA. I'm not saying I wasn't sold on them, but I just didn't see them enough. I'm sold. I mean, You're right. Those guys get after it, and they were very fun to watch. And I know you have the Carter kids, and I know you have, the A-Bear kid and the Gisclair kids. But I'm going to tell you what, that line is pretty good.
And they have that unity, too. I mean, you saw that infamous play where the one guy gets shoved and then all of the linemen dive. Like, they're having fun with it, man. They play hard, they compete, and they have that offensive line chemistry that you would love to have.
Well, that's going viral, too. Like,
yes.
Everybody's taking off on that thing. It is fun. And I'm going to give a little shout out to my friend Austin Kesterson, who coaches that offensive line, because he says he likes to have fun with them. And I think that's part of the having fun. And hopefully I could find that and lay it on top of us right now while we're talking so that everybody could see who hadn't had the opportunity to see it. So again, for you guys who don't know, CCA is going to be hosting Ouachita Christian, which is a great program. It's one of those deals, again, where Ouachita Christian actually in that district is playing on a 3A level. But for the playoffs, they drop down to select Division 4. And they're a powerhouse, too. They're really good. I'm not sure that they're great this year, to be honest with you. But it's still going to be, I guess, what you would consider to be a tough one for CCA.
It's a very difficult draw. It's a very difficult matchup. But, hey, I'm sure they're over there watching their huddle and saying that they've got a difficult draw and a difficult matchup as well. It should be a good game, but I'll say this, Dan, that's going to probably be CCA's toughest test of the season to this point. I don't think that there's any question about that.
Yep, agree with you. And then again, for you folks who didn't realize it, been hiding under a rock, E.D. White is going to host Vanderbilt at 7 o'clock. So a playoff game probably less than a mile from each other. One over on the campus of E.D. White, one over at John L. Guidry Stadium. So if you have the time, folks, go out and support the kids who are doing high school sports. One reason I'm really excited to have you on today is basketball. Basketball has gotten started last week. The Jamborees were the week before that. It's way too early to tell. Listen, I mean, and you know that, and you've been covering games, but I got to tell you something I'm really happy with, Casey, and I think you'll smile at this too. Cassidy Barrios had a tough year last year, right? She sort of knew, she understood. They got better. I think they ended up winning 6 or 7 games last year. They're 3-0 right now. And I don't care what the competition is. It just makes you smile a little bit when somebody works hard at their craft and they get to see maybe a little bit of good come out of it, right?
100%. And I got to tell you, my friend, knowing and following middle school basketball in the area, the best is yet to come. Houma Junior High has one of the best middle school basketball teams in the state of Louisiana. They have a middle school basketball team that could probably play and compete with some varsity high school basketball teams. So she has a slew of 8th graders coming in very shortly that are going to be overwhelming a lot of people in the area. So she is at the tip of the iceberg right now. They have started to turn things around, are off to a strong start to the season, and oh my goodness, are they about ready to be headed into a very, very, very bright period.
So what I did was this morning, I actually went look at our, site that you actually turned me on to a couple of years ago, Go Prep. Just for anybody who's not been keeping up, boys basketball, a lot of teams haven't even gotten on the court yet. But to see HL Bourgeois at 0-2, you might go, HL's 0-2? Well, go look at the competition before you get too bent out of shape with that one. Other teams that I think are interesting at this point, Allender Cornell Scott's supposed to have a good season this year. He's 1-0. And listen, kudos to Keegan, man. Keegan Polka gets his number 1 win in his first shot out the gate. So he's 1-0. Plus, I can't imagine, and you and Brian could probably relate to this a whole lot. Poor Keegan's got to start this basketball season. He's finally getting to what is his sport, right? Being athletic director, yet his softball coach takes off on him. I know and it sounds like, and this is basically from reading your stuff on Bayou Sports, sounds like he's kind of excited about people who have applied for the job.
Yeah, there's some interest there. It's unfortunate what happened with Coach Partridge, and he comes into the area and everybody's so excited. I mean, you get a championship winning coach into the South Lafourche program. For whatever reason, it just didn't work out. But there is some community excitement. There are some local people who have applied, and they're going to be figuring that out in the next couple of weeks. And it's going to be very interesting to see. Because look, I got to tell you, they're going to be brutally young. They're going to be playing a lot of 9th and 10th graders. And frankly, they're going to probably struggle for the next few years. That was Coach Partridge's plan anyway, to, just kind of roll those young girls out, kind of hit the reset button. But if they get the right person in there, someone who could be patient, someone who could work with the kids, they do think that they have a talented core there.
Well, I got to tell you, volleyball is sort of the example. Volleyball has obviously sort of flipped the switch there at South Lafourche. So I agree with you. I do hope that Coach Partridge understood that was a situation, but you're saying he knew that going in, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. I have not had a chance to speak with him about the reasons for the resignation, but I don't think it was anything on the field or anything like that. I mean, he knew going in, hey, we got a lot of young girls. It's going to be a process. I mean, he was very open and honest about that. I think that there were maybe some outside situations that dictated his decision.
Very good. Let's get back to basketball a little bit. We know Vanderbilt's boys are going to be good. They got off to a nice start. They got a win. Homer Christian actually beat South Terrebonne last week. Whenever we had the coaches in that day and we were talking about previews for the year, I was excited to see Caleb White back at South Terrebonne. He knows it's an uphill battle. It's not a school that has feeder programs that are conducive to basketball, quite honestly. But he's just a good person who understands those kids. I know he and Brian have a pretty good relationship too. So from that standpoint, it might take them some time. But nonetheless, listen, kudos to Richard Jones. He gets a win over a 4A school. So boys basketball, games you've gone stream. Terrebonne's got a loss under their belt. They played a pretty good team. What are you seeing? What do you think? I know it's very early impressions, but what are your impressions?
Okay, so let's start here. In Lafourche Parish, I think that South Lafourche is going to be pretty good. And I know that they beat Grand Isle, that they were expected to do that. But they have just about everybody back from last season. Coach Pokey coached a lot of these guys in middle school. There's a confidence there. They think they're going to be pretty good. I think Thibodaux is a team to look out for. Saw them in the Jamboree. Tony is very excited. They were very young last season. And one thing that Tony's also very excited about, he has Siobhan Coleman on his staff now. And he thinks Siobhan is relating to those kids. He thinks that they got a pretty good squad. E.D. White hasn't started yet. When they do, they're going to be real good. It's a lot of those same football guys. They're real tough, real physical. And then in Lafourche, the unknown is kind of Gage Griffin and the Central Lafourche Trojans. They lost all of their seniors last year. But I'll tell you this, from following middle school, Raceland Middle School is winning parish championships down here. So they've got a lot of those kids that are cycling in. On the Terrebonne side, Cornell thinks that Ellender's really good. He has come on and he has said on the radio several times, hope you guys had fun beating us last year, but you're not beating us this year, kind of thing. I saw Brandon Brown and his Terrebonne Tigers. I think they're going to be solid. They lost to Bonneville. Bonneville's a state power. Same with Andrew. You mentioned H.L. Bourgeois' 0-2 start. I talked to Andrew Saturday on the Sports Corner. He said, hey, look, we're really good. We're playing very tough competition. And they're also kind of in a transition because last year Chris Coleman was doing a lot of the scoring and a lot of the ball handling. And they're trying to figure out, who's going to slide into some of those roles. So they have a talented team. They're trying to figure some things out. Homa Christian School is a team, I think, to look out for. They return the Cortez kid, who was one of their best players. They return Justin Brinson, and they get DJ Adams back. He is a kid who had transferred out momentarily. He scored 26 points against South Terrebonne. He's really, really gifted. Homa Christian School is going to be solid. And then, of course, look, man, Vanderbilt Catholic. I was talking to Jordan Matthews actually at that Terrebonne and Bonneville game, and I was asking him, I said, hey, man, you guys got your football players who are still not there. Like, who's going to start for you all against Berwick? And he just kind of winked, and he said, yeah, we got enough. And then, Matthews goes and scores 42 points in the opener, and he gets an offer from Nichols. So we've got some teams that have a lot of talent. We got some teams who are starting the season playing pretty well, and it's going to be very exciting. I do think that we have some teams who can make some playoff runs this year. I do.
Actually, when you say that, I read the article on the Matthews kid from Vanderbilt. I'm thinking he's probably hoping the football team makes a run so that he can sort of score some points and stuff. Because you're right, they got some kids coming in from football that are going to be good. There are a lot of schools that are just kind of slow playing their schedule. You mentioned E.D. White. I know in talking to Troy Jackson at CCA, he said, I'm not even thinking football. Excuse me, basketball. I'm thinking all football now. And look, they got some kids over there that can play. It's just going to be a matter of gelling. So we'll see how it plays out. Again, way too early to tell. On the girl side of things, we mentioned Cassidy Barrios. I wanted to start with that because I hope that she sees some success, obviously. But we have some other teams. Nixon Ack's not going to be scared to play early on with his girls, and he's already got a win under his belt. Darian's got 2 wins at South Lafourche under her belt. You mentioned Grand Isle. That's one of them. But there are times when Grand Isle puts together a very competitive, good little team down there. South Terrebonne's got 2 wins. That doesn't happen a whole lot with their girls program, but I think they're better. I think there are a couple of girls that played younger. They're coming together. And, the juggernaut is Vanderbilt Catholic, right? So talk a little bit about the girls' side of things. I don't think you would be like saying anything that's earth-shattering when you talk about Jaworski and his program, but other teams maybe we need to keep an eye on.
Well, the one thing, and we could start with Jaworski and his program, the one thing that makes their early start to this season so impressive, and a lot of people don't realize, Michaela Charles is probably out for this season with a torn ACL that she suffered over the summer. So they are playing without their best player on paper, and they're still having success. They got an early season win against Madison Prep. Just goes to show the amazing talent that they have in that building. But again, let's start in Lafourche Parish. Nyla Lyons at South Lafourche is incredible. She's only a 10th grader. She already has a scholarship offer from Nicholls State University. She's going to do amazing things. Thibodaux is going to be really good, Stan. Coach Ashley Barba has an outstanding group of young ladies. They made the playoffs last season. They're going to be pretty much bringing the core back, the Taylor Thomas kid, the Lacey kid. They've got a lot of the Pollard kid in the
Have they played yet?
I don't believe they have played. I
don't think so either. I'm not sure, but yeah.
I saw them in the Jamboree. They're really good. And look, I got to tell you, man, one team in the area that a lot of folks are not talking a whole lot about because they lost their best player, Caroline Adams, to Nicholls State University, is E.D. White. I'll go ahead and shout the young lady out. They've got an 8th grader who came in, Stan. Her name is Emmy Ingram. Comes from Thibodaux Middle School. She's special. She's starting over there as an 8th grader. She is going to be awfully good. You mix her in with Emily Cortez and, Kylie Johnson and all the really solid players that they have there. E.D. White's going to be tough. Over on the Terrebonne side, you mentioned it a second ago. South Terrebonne is not the old South Terrebonne. They are improved this year. They're going to win some games this year. They blasted Ellender on Friday. Now I get it, Ellender's a little down, but South Terrebonne is playing some good basketball. Houma Christian.
Do you have any theories on Ellender's girls? I don't. I know. And listen, Coach Robinson said he just can't get them to come out anymore.
I'll say this, man. I saw Oaklawn play the last couple of years on the middle school side, and it's just they just have not had a great run of talent. I think it's just a cycle thing, and I do obviously Coach Robinson's won a state championship, so he knows what he's doing there. It's just been a down cycle. They're going to struggle this year, man. They've been struggling the last couple of years. A team that I want to see play, man, we mentioned Terrebonne, we mentioned Vanderbilt. I want to see Houma Christian School. It was last year, Coach Celestine took the job really late, and there were rumors and whispers like, hey, they might not even have a program, and, everything after Kathy's departure. They end up making the playoffs and go to the second round. They've got all of those kids back, every one of them. I think they had one senior last year. And Coach Celestine told us over the summer, he said, hey, we're working hard on fundamentals. Like last year, we pieced this together. This summer, we're actually teaching these girls how to play basketball. I think they're going to be improved, and I think they're going to be a playoff team again this year.
Very good. Don't want to mention everybody out there. Go to Bayou Sports as much as you possibly can on Facebook. Where else can they get to? Listen, pardon my ignorance with social media. Is that something you get through Twitter too, or can you just get to Casey through Twitter?
We have a Twitter page for the business. I'll be honest, we're not as active as we should be there. It's primarily through Facebook. But if anybody's listening or watching and says, hey, well, I don't do the Facebook thing, just go to by-usports.com and you just go directly to the website and you'll be able to see all the stories updated daily.
Perfect. I'm glad you got that out to everybody because, like I said, there's a lot of streaming when you folks can't get out to a game. Maybe you could pick up a game there. But the nice thing is, and my point is that you do have a scoreboard each night that gives everybody the scores throughout the parish.
Great sponsor, too.
Yeah. Great sponsor, Terrebonne. I agree 100%. We'll talk about all your platforms when we get to the end of this. Thanks for talking a little bit about basketball. I'm not going to get too much into soccer right now, but a great story on Vanderbilt's girls going up and beating Parkview Baptist, especially when Parkview hadn't lost a game in 100 years or whatever it was. But that was nice that you carried that because people just wouldn't know otherwise.
Oh, it was a great win, man. Look, Parkview is a team that was considered by just about everybody as the best team in the state of Louisiana, any classification. They went undefeated and won the state championship last year, returned every single starter off of that team. And then here they are coming down to the Bayou at the Central Lafourche tournament playing Vanderbilt Catholic, and Vanderbilt pops them one. They go ahead and score the upset. From what I understand, there were people, and look, Vanderbilt's a proud program. They won a bunch of championships and everything, but there were people in the Vanderbilt circles that were thinking that was going to be like a 4 or 5, 6-0 loss. Like they didn't think that they would be able to compete. They kept the game close, pulled away late. That is a huge win for that program, and see if it allows them to kind of jumpstart their season because they had been struggling. They were 0-2 to start the year, but when you get that win under your belt, man, you could beat them. You could beat anybody for sure.
Yeah, when you see in Vanderbilt's girls, not getting a win early on, and then you see E.D. White's girls not getting a win, then you see Central Lafourche's girls beating Vanderbilt's girls, the dynamic shifts just a little bit. We're going to talk a whole lot more about soccer in the future. I want to leave you with one thing because you actually did a story on it this weekend, and I think it's absolutely great that you did because I was curious. We think we only have one head football coaching job open in the area. I personally think it's going to start a domino effect, but all that being said, you had the opportunity to talk with Tony Clark, athletic director at Thibodaux. Where does that stand now?
Yeah, so talked to Tony. He basically said, hey, look, the job's about ready to post on the Lafourche Parish Schools website. They're not necessarily in a rush, but there is a sense of urgency. They want to get this done. They're looking at maybe starting the interviews before the Christmas holidays, and if it runs to where they have multiple people to interview, maybe it'll kind of drag a little bit after the Christmas holidays. In a perfect world, they would have a hire right after Christmas. Hey, you spend that last week before New Year's moving into Thibodaux, you could come in for the second semester. But that's not necessarily something that they're going to hold someone to. If there's a guy in a situation where he has to finish out the school year where he is or whatever, they're going to do their due diligence to get the best person in there. But they are working on it. They are excited about the potential interest that they're going to get in the job. Because I got to tell you, Thibodaux, it's a playoff team from last year. They were young. They return a lot of key pieces off of that team. The only thing that is going to end up hampering them, Stan, and we've talked about this many times on the Sports Corner, is if there's, a hot assistant coach or whatever, like in St. Charles, they would have to be taking a pay cut to come to Lafourche. So finances will be an issue, but they do think that they'll be able to get somebody, and it'll be within the next month or so.
Very good. We're going to lean on you for that. Again, if you want to tune into KC, I mentioned this probably earlier in this show, but I mention it all the time. We're doing this like on a Monday, sort of to review the prior week and to preview the upcoming week. That's it. You want it on a daily basis, go to all of Casey's platforms, Bayou Sports on Facebook, which is what I do. And listen, folks, if I can go to Facebook, you can go to Facebook.
Yeah.
It's that easy. And you always get your information right there at a fingertip. And it's not like it's got to come in the old days like a newspaper at 4 p.m. or 6 a.m. It's all day long when it's breaking. So, again, Bayou Sports. But you can also listen to Casey on a daily basis on KLEB at lunchtime with play-by-play. If you don't get the signal in your area, you can stream it. Just go to KLEB. And streaming is not a hard thing to do in today's world. And, of course, on Saturdays, they also have the Sports Corner. Anything I'm missing?
No, that's about it, man. And the one thing, it's BY dash the letter U, not YOU. Sometimes people get confused. BY dash the letter U sports.com. The Sports Corner is every Saturday from 10 to 12. Play-by-play is Monday through Friday from 11 to 1. And then, we have coaches lined up. That play-by-play is where I had Tony Clark on for that interview. Today we're going to have Jesse Turner and Brandon Brown. We're talking to the coaches throughout the week. That's where we primarily get a lot of the information that we push out.
Very good. Thank you for spending time with us. We hope, again, if everything works out on Mondays, we'll get you in and we'll talk a little bit about what's going on in the Bayou region. And we're just trying to kind of focus to that. But if you want to find out more about LSU, about Nicholls State, about the Saints, listen to Casey. He can give you more of that information. Thank you, my friend. We'll see you next week.
My pleasure. Happy Thanksgiving, my man. Enjoy all that turkey, brother.
Same to you and your family.
It's always nice to have Casey on. Casey, again, has daily updates with all of this stuff. Go to Bayou Sports. It's on Facebook and it's on Twitter. And I'd love to tell you, I understand all of the social media aspect of everything. But Casey and his crew do a really good job, as they are at a lot of those games streaming live. We always love having him on each week. Moving on just a little bit. We mentioned earlier when we were talking football that Brian Wallace made the leap. I don't know if you would call it the leap or the descent. You might help me with this. So he was in college football for his entire career, and now he's in high school football. But he was always an assistant coach on the collegiate level. Now he's a head coach on the high school level. So is that ascending? Or is that descending?
I mean, technically, if he's the head coach, I think it's an ascent.
He has grown to love the home area. He's not originally from here, although I know his wife is a, what would you call it? A Homation? A Homan? I'm not sure what you call a person from Homa. She's from here. She went to Vanderbilt Catholic. So he's basically home now, right? That being said, he talks a little bit, and this was actually on Sports on the Bayou earlier last week. He talks a little bit about making that leap, deciding to become a head coach at Vanderbilt and how much he's enjoyed it. Welcome back to Sports on the Bayou. Very happy to be joined by the head coach of Vanderbilt Catholic, Brian Wallace. Vanderbilt Catholic 8-2. Only 2 losses, and one was to an undefeated Lutcher team and another to E.D. White, who's a pretty good program over there in Thibodaux. Coach, congratulations. Playoffs start for you this week. Talk a little bit about coming from the collegiate level. Listen, I'm going to say this tongue-in-cheek. We've been talking about Nichols, right? Struggling this year. He leaves Nichols. I wonder if he calls Tim every once in a while and says, hey, you need me back?
Man, if you were coaching special teams, I'd say come back.
I was actually the last 4 years as coordinator, but that's not it. But, no, it's been a good transition. Obviously, the first go-around in the playoffs, so excited to get a home game, able to get a home game Friday night versus Hannon. So,
6th seed. They are the number 6 seed in the playoffs. Again, he mentioned Archbishop Hannon, kind of a surprise winner. In this day and age of the LHSAA, if somebody says, can you get to the second round of the playoffs being 1-9, the answer is yes, because Hannon is 1-9 in the regular season.
But then you better not lose, Coach.
no pressure.
Right now. That's putting any pressure. I'm not putting any pressure on you, but
That's put a little,
right now. You better not come
pressure, right?
You got to win. Come on.
You said they have a really good quarterback.
Well, I told our guys the other day, I said they have nothing to lose. I mean, they're the 22 seed. They go in at 1-9. They beat a good St. Michael's team. So we're going to get their best punch Friday night, and but we're preparing them, to give them ours. So we just got to prepare like we always do.
Are you the kind of guy who assesses the regular season now, or it's like, I'm not doing any of that stuff until we get through this playoff run?
So last week, fortunate enough to get the bye, we were able to kind of get some of where we got back to our fundamentals last week, and we talked about just getting back to always taking the Terriers off the schedule. So what do the Terriers need to work on, and blocking, tackling, all those fundamentals that we have to have that are rudimentary to winning ball games. So we're able to do that last week, and now this week we can just focus on Hannon.
Listen, don't want to jump the gun. Obviously, these guys are going to be heavy favored in their game. E.D. White going to be favored in their game. That would mean that the two teams would play each other next week, which, for us as fans, we hope happens in the area. How do you not play 2 games on Friday night?
Well, that's why they call you coach. You know what I mean? So I tell the guys all the time, that, just be where your feet are. Focus on the next game. We got to go 1-0 before you can go 2-0. And it can happen to anybody. That's why it's win or go home right now in the playoffs. So
and no matter what the level, like you always want to win anytime you play. But like you look all of a sudden, then we went impressed. Look at Josh Allen and the Bills. They beat the Chiefs, but are they going to beat them in the playoffs?
Yep.
That's the whole thing. So you might say it ain't over till it's over. When you look at the regular season, that's the game you want to win when it comes postseason.
Absolutely.
But that's what people are going to remember.
Absolutely.
I got a quick question,
Sure,
Coach.
sure.
Now, do you, in a lot of sports, you coach for the tournament effectively. Do you have that in the back of your head, gearing up and peaking at the right time? Or do you do things differently, or are you winning? You're trying to win every game and just let it fall?
We're just trying to win every game just to get to the postseason. You know what I mean? And try to put ourselves in the highest ranking seed. And everyone was like, well, how you feel about the U high because it would change the seating. I just tell the guys, put a ball down, we'll play. To be the best, we got to beat the best. So we kind of just look at it to, it's going to be about us, and we have to execute to win.
And, Coach, you brought up U high, Stan and Mike, y'all probably more informed than this. But I don't know. You look at LHSAA, all that, and when you're dealing with University High, and then, that a player was legal or not legal, and then you look – I don't know, this day and age with transfer portal, name, image, and likeness, when I look at all that, how did he truly, govern this?
And why do you wait so long in the process before it comes out? That's the other thing.
Do y'all have answers? I don't know. Help me out.
University tried to get away with a technicality of being punished 10 days before the end of the regular season within that kind of. So there was a lot of stuff, too. And then, quite honestly, a lot of people started throwing Gordon McKernan's name in there and how it was going to all play out. But it's done. They are out.
They are out.
So they are done. Listen, want to make sure we congratulate the other teams in the playoffs. CCA has a big one against Central Catholic, and that's going to be played at Nichols. Of course, we mentioned E.D. White. They'll be taking on Lincoln Prep, which I've never heard of before. But
where's Lincoln Prep even at?
Livingston Collegiate. I don't even know how we keep up.
That Livingston Parish by
Livingston
Parish.
Okay. And listen, to Sterling and those guys, they went and they punched Hornville in the mouth. Congratulations. To Tyler Lewis at Terrebonne, they did a great job. Just got away with Chalmette hung around and got to him. And Thibodaux played Mandeville really good, too. So we had a good showing in the first round. Want to congratulate your volleyball team, along with E.D. White, who made it to Lafayette, and they did extremely well there. E.D. White got the win in a tough one. E.D. White loses to Haynes in the semifinals. And E.D. White's girls actually won the cross-country state championship for Division II yesterday. Congratulations for them. Your Trojans from Central Lafourche, they finished in eighth place in Division I. So congratulations to Tex Martin and his crew. So some good things happening in the high schools. But, Brian, our eyes are towards you. We hope y'all do well. Want to mention you have Chandler Arsenault with you here.
Coach Chandler Arsenault.
Yep, all-conference player.
Well, we all want to see Vanderbilt play E.D. White again. Come on, who's against that? Hello, come on, right? That's a natural. We want to see Vanderbilt. No, I'm going to give positive or negative. I'm going to give Martin the business. I always hold whether Vanderbilt wins or not. I always give Martin false credit or the blame.
Well, again, we hope you guys do well. Let's win this week first.
Absolutely.
Right? Brian Wallace is a great guy. Loved having him on, and we hope that they do well. We hope all of our local teams do well this week. Unfortunately, E.D. White taking on Vanderbilt, and somebody's got to win and somebody's got to lose. We're just hoping for a game that is well played over in Thibodaux. Soccer is starting, and they were only about a week and a half in, and I got to tell you, we mentioned about swimming being in the cold. Maybe the soccer kids deserve the biggest award for fighting the elements. Those kids start their season in late November. They go through December and January. There are times where it's 32 degrees outside in the training, and they're still playing. The seasons have just started, and I thought it would be a good idea to talk to the elder statesman of soccer, Simon Badeaux, a little bit about his program and about the start of the soccer season. It's my pleasure to have with me Simon Badeaux, the head soccer coach over at South Terrebonne. And I say the head soccer coach, I'm not distinguishing between boys and girls soccer. And Simon, I don't know if you know this or not, but you're sort of the elder statesman now. You're like the guy in soccer. Maybe John Hebert with the girls program at Terrebonne. But I mean, John. Yeah, he might have you by a few years, right?
Oh yeah, and then he at both HL and Terrebonne.
That's right. That's right. Of course, you were at Central Lafourche before South Terrebonne, but listen, you do a wonderful job there. You've always had a great program, both at Central and at South Terrebonne. It's underway. Y'all have started. Before I really get into like the boys side and the girls side, tell everybody how you sort of got involved with both boys and girls soccer, because it had always been boys before, but now it's sort of boys and girls, right?
Right. Yeah. So last year, we they had some issues, and the girls needed a relief coach, I guess. Had to call the bullpen. So about mid-season, I guess, took over the girls program. And, I think they were maybe like 10, 11 games in. And, I was doing the middle school as well. And so the middle school season had ended right about the same time whenever we took over the girls. And, just kind of rolled it over to this year. I enjoyed it. It was different because that was the first time I did, high school girls. I do have 2 daughters that I'm coaching in rec soccer, but last year, my assistant coach, Rusty Price, said, he helped out a little bit in the beginning, but and then we were kind of in the route. Once the holidays broke and we get back to January, it's like a set routine of games, and you practicing in between. But district game Tuesday night, Friday night.
Let's start talking about the boys a little bit. You got 2 wins early on, Thibodaux High and Morgan City, which were good wins. You do lose, but it's a tough St. Thomas Aquinas team, right? Talk about the progress of the boys to this point.
Yeah. I think even with the loss to St. Thomas Aquinas, I thought that we had made a nice breakthrough in the game. The first half of the game, we were controlling the pace, the tempo. I think that the guys even discovered a different aspect of the game that we can actually play. With being able to control the ball throughout the whole pitch, it was nice to see. I think the guys, it was an eye opener for them.
The girls, it's a little bit different. It's a win, a tie, and a loss. And I'm assuming St. Thomas Aquinas' girls probably have a pretty good program too. So do you get better from games like that? Do you know sort of that we got to go through this gauntlet to get better, especially when you get into your district?
Absolutely. The beginning of every soccer season is every team that I've coached, we struggle to score early on because we're kind of finding our identity of the team. Between Central Lafourche and here at South Terrebonne, we're typically relying on our 3 sport athletes, at least 2 sport athletes for soccer as well. It's hard to have a decent soccer practice when you're missing all your football players or you're missing all your volleyball players with the girls. So right when we start playing games, football season ended the week before. So those guys really have had a couple of practices up until the first game, and same thing with the girls. So, scoring it's almost like an afterthought because you're trying to build who we are as a team. How are we going to score? How are we going to get the ball to that side of the field?
Simon, what I find interesting is that your boys and your girls districts are not the same. And not only that, it's kind of weird because, you were at Central Lafourche, and Central Lafourche is a 5A school and everything else, yet they're going to be in your district related to soccer. Luxor's not in the boys district, it looks like, but they are in the girls district, and East St. John's in there some kind of way. First of all, will that cause a problem when you're in your district schedule and you're getting ready to play East St. John and the boys don't have to play East St. John, right?
Right. Well, fortunately, Coach Dupuis at East St. John, he's been there for as long as I've been coaching soccer, either at both schools. So we got a game scheduled with the boys after the girls' game still, but this is the first time that our districts have been not the same, and it definitely was awkward because also we're only playing 1 round of district this year, which is also a first for us. The PowerPoint game is just kind of it changes the game. It basically takes the purpose of having district play out. We're in Central Lafourche's district, we're not in the same division. We compete for a district title that essentially it seems it doesn't mean anything because we're not going to play in the playoffs against those teams.
You know, we know you played Hornbill and St. Thomas Aquinas and some of our local schools. What do you have on the horizon? What kind of tournaments maybe are you going to be in?
So, boys and girls are going to the Terrebonne tournament. Right now, our girls are in the Central Lafourche girls tournament. And then we'll both together go to the Terrebonne tournament. And then the boys side, we'll go to the Copa Classic or the Copa Acadiana. It'll be in Baton Rouge this year, again, like last year. But that's kind of a long-standing tournament since forever. They've had that in Lafayette at Moore Park and this year at Burbank Field. You know, growing up as a 10-year-old, 11-year-old, or, you know, you playing in a select tournament in Gulfport or whatever, like the kids are doing with Blackhawks or whatever, they're playing for a title. That's a tournament, traditional, so to speak. And I think, you know, a 15, 17-year-old kid, it's hard to play 3 games in a day of soccer.
Simon, thanks for spending time with us. I hope that I can hold you in January sometime to coming back on when we're getting ready for the playoffs, and we'll talk about maybe a really good South Terrebonne playoff run.
Right, yeah. You know, the last couple of years, we've had a lot of success. I think last year we hosted 2 playoff games for the boys, and the few years prior, we've had some good success in the playoffs, so it's been exciting. I'm hoping we can repeat both boys and girls. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to being back on the program.
Thanks for, again, spending some time with us, Simon. Best of luck the rest of the way.
All right, appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks to Simon. Always gracious with his time. We'll catch up with Simon a little bit later. I think South Terrebonne will make a playoff run in there somewhere. And as we mentioned, it's the first time he's got the girls and the boys as they move on throughout this full season. Soccer, go out and support those kids. Again, as we wrap up the show, remember, it's high school football playoffs this Friday night over at Pelche Stadium on the campus of E.D. White. Vanderbilt going to be taking on E.D. White in a huge win in Division II Select. And not even a mile away over at John L. Guidry Stadium on the campus of Nicholls State University, it'll be CCA taking on Ouachita Christian in another huge one. That is Division IV Select football. We hope that our teams locally do well. Well, we know one's going to do well in Thibodaux. We just hope it's a well-played game there. Next week, we'll get you caught up as to who won those games, how they did in those games. Casey going to stop by with us and talk a little bit and give his opinions on what might happen going forward in football. And we'll talk a lot more basketball because obviously basketball has started. We talked a little bit about that with Casey when we talked to Casey, but we're going to get more into basketball as time goes on. Again, every Monday afternoon, we drop this and we put it out there. You'll always keep me in line with all of that, Dustin, in case something changes along the way.
As long as I don't have too much turkey this week.
Yes.
We'll see.
I'm glad you said that. Want to remind everybody before we sign off, have a terrific holiday week. Have a terrific Thanksgiving, but be safe, right?
Absolutely.
Yes. Again, thanks for joining in. You've been listening to the Locker Room Podcast. We'll be back next Monday. Hope you are too.